Good evening, Burbies. Good evening to Region 5 and Region 6. I'm Kathy Hughes, coming to join you for the next hour with Alliance on the Move. And I'm so happy this evening. I know we're a few minutes late, but we got a great show lined up for you. First of all, I would like to introduce Dr. Shamir Ali. And Dr. Ali is actually, he was the uh, Guyana ambassador to Kuwait in our last administration. And he did an amazing job. And we're going to talk about the groundwork, the loans, and all the exciting things he has been involved in. So, welcome, Dr. Shamir Ali.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kathy and Devin and Sheridan team.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we've got Sharad in the background doing the technical stuff. Thank you, Sharad. And the man in the mask this evening, I'm glad that he is in a location where he needs to have his mask on, is Member of Parliament Devin Sayers. And everybody will know that Devin is based in Region 10. So, Devin, thanks for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much, Kathy, for having me.
Great, great. So, as I said, we have an exciting show for you. And we really wanted, I'm so excited that we could have Dr. Shamir with us this evening. Dr. Shamir actually has, I found a lot of interesting tidbits about him. And one I think we would all like to know is that imagine in 1966, May 26, 1966, and that date should ring a bell for all of us because, of course, that's the date that Guyana became independent. And the British flag came down. And Dr. Shamir Ali was there when the golden arrowhead of achievement was raised for the first time. So he is a true Guyanese, a stalwart. And maybe we could start off with Doc taking us back a couple of years and giving us a sense of, you know, what was that moment like to actually be there when our flag was raised for the first time?
Greetings, namaste, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Happy Ramadan to listeners, especially in Berbice, Guyana, and globally. It's a delight, joy, and honor to be here. As I close my eyes, I can still see Speaker Rahman Bakas Gajraj, whom I was personal assistant to, along with Sir Donald Jackson, Sir Richard Late, and all the other politicians clamoring as to who will be on the front line to see the flag being raised. There was electricity in the entire group. Everybody had high expectations. We did not know what will happen. There was no past experiences. We saw a video or a movie. There was no SMS, no iPhone. So it was all pure excitement. The cool, calm, and collective person was the governor, Sir Richard Late. He must have been through this over and over, and he was the only person who was cool, calm, collected. I can still see his face. He was very tall and slender. And the excitement was there, the opportunity. The Locos were there in abundance. Lloyd, Ina. Lloyd was the usual talkative self. Ina was there. And you had Isais Narayan Singh was there, I remembered. And the Attorney General was there. The entire team was there. And there was joy. There was joy. There was immense joy and camaraderie that was there. So it's a remarkable night to see that happen. And the British were very dignified and sober, in as much their past has not been too checkered. They were very civil, courteous, and helpful. They promised to help Guyana forever was the word Sir Richard Lute used. And so, pleasant memory.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, I am a little older than Devin. So I certainly know of some of those names. Devin, you're the youngster in the game, and we love having you in our parliament. Devin, I want to give you the opportunity. Is there anything you'd like to ask Dr. Shamir about the whole day, that moment when we became independent? I don't know if there's any special question a young person has that you'd like to ask him. Please go ahead if you do.
Yes, definitely. One of the questions I would ask is, back then, gaining independence, there were there were a lot of visions for this country. And, at that time, it was a new beginning, a new breath of fresh air for Guyana. Do you think, looking back from when we gained independence to now, if we are on the right track of development
No,
and
no,
prosperity?
no. Definitely no. The dreams that the leaders have, including Sir John Carter, Sir Fenton Ramsahoy, and the entire team, was a oneness. There was a oneness. This was our country. This was our Guyana. The secretariat, the parliamentary was one, the entire group. The division that is now evident was not there at all. No, no, no,
Yeah.
no. It was not there.
So, what do we need to do to get back on track at this point in time?
Well, we need leaders who can mobilize the nation's will, get all of us will so we can succeed, win, and prosper together. And they are examples. I have traveled to 80 countries around the world, and my top seven will be Norway, Kuwait, Singapore, Qatar, Dubai, Malaysia, and these days, Ukraine, the leader, look at that leader, how he's managing with a small army. He's mobilizing the will of the people. That's what we
Yeah.
have to do. We talk about one Guyana. Our motto is one people, one nation, one destiny. That is perfect, but we're not living it. We're talking it, but not living it. Res non verba, deeds, not the words. With all due respect,
Yeah. You know,
they're
Doctor.
only looking back. We didn't see too many youths there. And after a number of years, youth become more prominent. There were not too many, very few, if any, youths were around. The ladies were there, but not as prominent as they have become. So, with the fluctuation of time, women and ladies have become more prominent that we didn't see then. But those are two good things I can say. The only two good I can really remember.
Mhm.
Wow.
Dr. Shamir and Devin, I'm glad you asked that very important question. And the issue of oneness and working together is certainly something that I feel very strong about. Dr. Shamir, you will know that we've had some difficult times in the last 2 years. And one of the issues that I know we in Guyana don't like to talk about is the challenge of race. Um, I know it is a difficult subject, but as you talk about oneness, we recognize that we all came here from different places except the Amerindians, our indigenous peoples. And certainly we have to be able to work together. We have to be able to each have a stake and a part of this beautiful country at a time when, for the first time in history, we have all these various resources. And of course, oil being the newest one that is bringing us a bountiful future. Dr. Shamir, would you comment on the importance of us building good race relations amongst ourselves? I know many years ago we seem to have had it a lot more in your time than we seem to see now. Can
Yeah,
you share your thoughts on that?
yeah. That is very, very, very prominent. And I can remember in the days of Lyndon Forbes, His Excellency Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, and His Excellency Dr. Chetty Jagan,
Mhm.
there were more cooperation, there were more togetherness. There's number one example in the world is Singapore. With all the nationalities, they come together. The politicians have to set the tone. They're the ones who set it. I know part of our problems have been this up and jot. In my opinion, that was part of the problem. Vote your race. The politicians used it, and politicians globally do that. They do it all the time. But there's a time when enough is enough. We have the resources. We always have the resources, but the political will. And
Mhm.
this is being inculcated in the younger generation. That is my surprise. In 2015, my biggest surprise is when my own sister and brother-in-law, I could not get them to change from voting the way they wanted to on race. My
Mhm.
own family. And they both passed on. All the persuasion I tried, some people are like that. I understand some of the older generation inculcate in the younger generation this up and jot voucher race. And that has to change. And it can come from the leaders, even our current leadership. They can all try and realize that we're not going anywhere unless we collectively stand together. A house divided by itself can never stand. This is true in the past, and Guyana can. And a national government might be one of the political ways. There are many schools of thought on it, and perhaps that might be an angle for some sharing, because half of the persons feel is happy time now,
Yeah.
and the rest are
Yeah.
outside looking in. It would not work, cannot work, cannot
Mhm.
work.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. We're not going to get anywhere if after every election we have half of the population that doesn't want to, that feels left out, that there isn't a space for them. Devin, I want to bring you in here. You are a young member of parliament. You want to share some of your thoughts on the challenges we face in this area? And as a young person, how do you see Guyana? What do we need to do to get out of this rigid challenge and problem with race that seems to be holding us back? We're wasting time arguing amongst ourselves. Um, how do we create a better Guyana, Devin? In fact, how are you going to do it, and young people?
Right. Thank you so much, Kati, for that question. When I think back about growing up, from particularly my father, he would talk about his struggles during the 1960s
Mhm.
with the PPP, because his family supported the PNC, and of course they were Afro-Guyanese. And while growing up, he shared his experiences, and that developed in me somewhat of, I saw them as being bad because that is what was being whispered in my ears. But he was talking based on his experiences.
Yeah.
But my experience in this country, I don't care about race. I don't care if you're Amerindian, East Indian, African. I see you as Guyanese. So now that is what I'm going to pass on to my children that don't see each other for race. But the buck stops or starts at the parents. The first institution that the child is exposed to is the house. You cannot preach race in the house. You have to preach unity. Love each other like you love yourself or your neighbor. And the politicians or politics over the years have used that as a tool to gain votes. But in this generation, we're seeing young people moving away from looking at race.
Good.
They're focusing on issues that are affecting
Mhm.
them, like unemployment and educational opportunities. And that is what the country and politicians need to focus on the issues, not race. The whole fact of pushing one Guyana, to me, it's a farce, because we can see what is happening throughout Guyana, whereby the government is pushing resources towards who is supporting them more, as compared to those who are not for or pro government. They're not giving as much support.
Mhm.
So to solve all of this here, it starts from you and I, from a home perspective, teaching our kids to love each other like you love yourself, and then as politicians, focus on the issues rather than racial politics, because it will not get us anywhere. It will
Mhm.
create a more divided country. And on my part, what I'm doing here in Region 10, we are focusing on developmental projects. There are some projects that we are working on whereby it involves uh, East Indian, Amerindian, despite whatever ethnicity or political persuasion you're a part of, we are focusing on development because of some of the projects that we're working on. So there's a time and place for everything, but we need to get rid of the racial politics because it's dividing all of us. Let us work as one.
Yep.
Amen.
Wise words. Yeah, wise words of
Amen.
wisdom coming out of the mouths of the young people. As Dr. Shamir said, amen. I want, as I said, we have a special program this evening because we have Ambassador Extraordinaire, Dr. Shamir Ali. And just to give you a little bit of information on him, he was actually the first alternate governor of the Islamic Development Bank in Jeddah between May 2017 to July 2020. And he also served as deputy chairman of the board of directors of Go Invest. And I know, Dr. Shamir, even in the Guinness Book of World Records, I know you're going to tell us about that activity that you had at your ministry, at the embassy, where I think you had the most stickers on a vehicle. That's
Yes,
a light moment. So
41,000.
before we get to the serious stuff, tell us a bit about that and some of your work as an ambassador
Right.
to Kuwait.
Right. Well, went to Kuwait in 2016. The embassy was established in 2011. And for 5 years, as we arrived, 9 out of 10 persons did not know Guyana embassy was there. When
Mm,
we point out the building, they thought we were Ghana or Guinea, and no such embassy was in. So right away, my wife Marianne, who was a global marketing executive for Merck, I assigned her the job to show, tell, and know Guyana. That was her mission to help me along. And we
mhm,
designed a business card that is unique that showed where Guyana location is on the map, show and tell, and a flyer. And every day, there are three always in my pocket, show and tell. And we went on to promote Guyana. Guyana is a brand known in the entire Middle East and the six GCC countries. My first big task was the loan. Kuwait has a debt. Guyana has a debt to Kuwait. And Donna in the Ministry of Finance has been trying for years without success. He called me from day one. I started. And in that part of the world, agreement comes after relationships. You have to build relationships, and it's a
mhm,
slow process. It's completely different from the Western model. You build relationships, you go, you sip tea, eat a date, and leave. That might happen 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times. Then the 51 time they says, what can I do for you?
mhm,
Sometimes that 50 can be 70 times. Lucky,
mhm,
I got the what can I do for you from His Highness Sheikh Dr. Nazir, who was the Prime Minister. He visited Guyana. So you had a soft spot for Guyana many times. Only Guyana is with the ruling family, nobody else. And we try to help them add value. It's not only gimme, gimme, gimme. No, no, no. And so when he asked, I says 100% write off. We got 66 and 2/3. And the reason you couldn't do 100, do you know up to today, Ramadan, I asked them not to forget the balance 1/3 because it's my country and my people and my nation and my citizens. He says
mhm,
115 countries owe Kuwait. And if you give Guyana 100%, then you'll have a president. So we accept the 66 and 2/3 with Minister Jordan and Donna in the Foreign Ministry of Finance, and we were satisfied. Guinness
mhm.
World Record. You know, we've always got to thinking out of the box. If you want to create a brand, you have to lead. You have to think differently. So Ministry of Foreign Affairs says, have a set of activities to mark the 50th anniversary. So we decided to have 50 activities. And among the 50 activities, we have plate 3 car. We have 3 cars, all donated by Kuwait. Accident 3 times. The cost of the car insurance is $300, and the car value is $50. So I told Marianne, we have this car, we're not getting it replaced, it can't do anything. Help me come up with a plan to use this asset, which is a gift from Kuwait, to give it back in the name of Kuwait and Guyana, not only Guyana. Most, with all due respect, the 112 embassies, most of the ambassadors, is always my country, not Guyana. We are here, it's Kuwait and Guyana, Guyana and Kuwait. Those little things set the tone. Guyana is the only embassy with the entire Al Sabah family tree was able to get from my London resources. So the upstairs floor was in respect like a mini museum. Those are the little things that create the respect and the healthy relationship that cause Guyana to do all the stuff we've done in Kuwait. We've also got 1,200,000 for the Rosignol to Belfield Road. And after that road, sky was the limit.
Lovely.
Sky was the limit. And I'm in touch. I have not given up all my contacts because I kept in Kuwait my personal phone. So everything, I have 38,000 pictures from
Wow.
day one. And I'm even filtering them, and some are on my personal website. So there's a record, and I'm in touch with them. I'm in touch with the Ukrainian ambassador. I'm in touch with the Russian ambassador today. The Ukrainian ambassador sending Eid Mubarak. So you maintain the relationships, and God's will be done. But above all, there's 3 things, if I'm to say, that are very, very important in that part of the world. It's tough for the Western world to understand. I wouldn't understand it, and I couldn't if I wasn't there. It's relationship and sabr. Sabr is the Arabic word for patience. And then the famous song, respect. Those are the 3 major takeaways I'll give to anybody wanting to go in that part of the world. I know, with all due respect, the current government is going, but do you know many of those countries come and ask me privately what I think? And I told them that they have to be more transparent, they have to be more involved, and the nation is not half for one person, it's 100%. And right now, the government, with all due respect, is only speaking for their half of parliament. And also, no, not, and they will do their research and they will find it out. So you can't lie. Don't. I also found, don't pull a fast one because suddenly you're on the ice box and you don't get out. Be true, both upright, and my famous words are anytime, with all due respect.
Mhm. Yep.
And
Uh,
right now at the World Bank, with Minister Jordan was the first governor of the bank, and we set personal relationships at the bank at the highest level. A new member getting a grant of 900
100.
million US dollars. We
Mhm.
could not use it. We were surprised at that figure. And let me tell you, see, relationships, how did that come about? I went as a delegate to the Islamic Summit for Science and Technology in Astana. And the person on my left, I didn't know who he was. He was the governor of the Islamic Development Bank. So I whip up my folder in Guyana, and I'm telling him all about this country, Guyana, Guyana, Guyana. And I told him, Your Excellency, you have a frown on your face. What's bothering you? He said, well, I'm this Islamic bank and I want to be a global bank. I said, Your Excellency, how can you be a global bank when you got a Saudi flag? You have to have a logo that can fit in that environment. He said, what is the logo? I said, well, your mascot. You got a big green band and the sword and the Arabic word. Everybody will run. So you have to, and that was the beginning of it. Do you know when the new logo was launched, who the guests were? Shamir and Marianne. At the launch of the logo in Riyadh. So based on that, That is what who caused. So when I saw him, he says, "Oh, you are there. All right. We can give you 10. How about 9?" I said, 900. He says, "No, 900 million." So we looked at each other, myself and Minister Jordan said, "We have the people, do we have the feasibility?" Because they asked for feasibility studies. "We have the feasibility studies to do this?" They says, "No, but we can try, we're going to work." But we had difficulty getting the feasibility studies. And after 1 year, I approached OPEC at one of the meetings, relationships again. Somebody linked me up, and OPEC promised to go with the Islamic Development Bank team to Guyana and help Guyana with the feasibility studies. That
Mhm.
900 million will expire in 2022. From the news reads, I understand we're trying to get 120 million for the Linden Road, and that's quite like the possibility because out of that we have a lot of money, 800 million still there of that credit, and hopefully the government will ask for an extension. The key driver is they want feasibility studies and no
Mhm.
shenanigans. They says, "You told me right, you're a Muslim, no shenanigans from you." And I says, "No, niyat, never, never." So you have
Mhm.
to be upfront and be reasonable. They're not looking for cheap, they're looking for quality, but they're looking for long lasting because the image in Guyana and Suriname, they value it greatly.
Yeah.
So the possibility is tremendous, but the style of the government without feasibility studies is not going to work. You've got to have the paper, you've got to do the justification because they're spending nations' money. The
Mhm.
Islamic Development Bank is sending a lot of Saudi money and
Mhm.
Singapore money, the investors. So they have to, like a bank, be very careful what they do. I've heard the complaints from ISDB as of this morning, Guyana complaining the loans are not coming fast enough, but they have to go through a process. They have filter, they have bureaucracy that they have to dot the I's and cross the T. So they're doing
Mhm.
their best, and hopefully June, my intelligence is likely to pass because you're surfacing a road. Not much feasibility is required for that. It's a do good operation. But other major operations like the hydro projects, they will need a feasibility. A deep water harbor will need a feasibility. A big
Mhm.
bridge, the kind of bridge will need a feasibility. So, they
Yeah.
know they've been doing this in Africa. They have lots of experience and the leadership of Minister Jordan. I had a personal relationship. 1 week I'm in touch with them. They're all in my contact even now. Keep them in charge, but I don't want to hear the government business. They come for advice, and I share advice, share information.
Mhm.
But the potential for Guyana, if we can just get our togetherness, I don't know what word to use for it, get our togetherness, hope, plan,
Yeah.
dream, desire, will, we can be a beacon of light for all.
Well,
Yes.
we
Yes.
we definitely have to get it together. And Dr. Shamir, please extend my thanks to your wife, who I had the good fortune to meet, Marianne, for her work whilst you were in that position. I think what's good about this discussion, and I'm sure Devin's going to agree, and I'm going to ask Devin to jump in with any questions he may have for Doc as we go forward, is that, Doc, a lot of what we're seeing today, it's so easy for the people of Guyana to assume that this relationship is a new relation started by the PPP. And that's why I'm glad that you mentioned the close relationship you've had. You laid an important foundation in 2016 when you went to Kuwait. And from that, we have seen loans that, as you say, have been given to the government of Guyana, that we still have, that we hope we can get those feasibility studies going right now. And most importantly, you've laid a foundation on which we can continue to expand our relations with the countries in that part of the world. Um, Sher- uh, Stephen, I don't want to be the only one in this interview. Please
Exactly.
jump in anytime. You got some questions for Dr. Shamir?
Yeah, there's more sort of comment. Dr. Shamir, I must say thank you so much for your representation. Because, for years we've been talking about the Linden to Lethem Road, and
Mhm.
hearing that we got over 100 and something million allocated towards its development. I would say that's progress because
Mhm.
it's essential for Linden and Region 10 development. We need it like yesterday. And knowing that the feasibility study for most of it has been completed and money has been allocated for its development or partially under the APNU AFC government, that is thumbs up from all residents of Region 10. We want to say thank you. This road here will bring investments. It will bring and contribute towards tourism because we always say, Linden and Region 10 is the heartland, is the gateway to the interior and to the coast. And we've been working so hard over the last couple of years to develop the tourism industry, particularly. And one of the things we recognize is that persons continue to complain about the road. And I know, Kathy, you did a lot of work in tourism too. And we always try to create that Guyana uh, tourist route. So from Suriname to Guyana, then Brazil. And,
Mhm.
we will see all that happening with the development of this project. Um, you know, in order for development to come rightfully, you spoke about relationships, and that is key. And we cannot always go, begging first. You gotta make friends. You gotta take a drink, eat something, yeah, and be genuine in about what you're doing. And that sort of genuineness, I don't believe exists right now in some places, some parts of the government. They want to see what they can get for themselves first before looking out for the interests of people. And I believe a lot of countries are seeing through their BS, right? And that will affect the nation in the long run. Dr. Shamir, one of the things I want to ask you is, as it is right now, are you guiding the government? Are you allowed to guide the government in some of its foreign affairs deals?
I offered, I offered through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I offered through Minister Greenwich and through PS Waddle, but no approach from no one. No. My
That,
advice is available for one Guyana, but no one has reached out for me.
mhm. And that's the
And
challenge of sorry,
yeah.
Kathy, that's one of the challenges that we have.
Mhm.
We as AFC, we always talk about, inclusion, including persons, despite the view of the opposition. If you can get help from here, get help.
Yep.
And that it will be our downfall as a country. And that is why I opted to join the AFC, of which became form part of the coalition APNU AFC, because we are focusing on unity, pulling all resources together, despite from wherever you are. We have to make this train move. So if if it is, Dr. Shamir, you have a spanner that can make it move, and just because you are not probably supportive of us, we're going to ignore you. So that means that the train is going to just park up here. We're looking for progress, and progress comes through unity, consultation, and building relationships.
Mhm. And
Amen.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have in Guyana that will prevent us. Because right now, when we examine the politics, we realize that we're spending more time fighting over the pie than actually baking a bigger pie. And that's what's going to keep us where we are. It will be a sad day when we have all these resources and we're not able to realize it. And I think that the nonsense that is taking place, where the government is deliberately not using the skills, not utilizing the persons that have a role to play, that have the expertise. And in the case of Dr. Shamir Ali, who's had an excellent reputation, a very good relationship with the body of experts and the administration in Kuwait that he had an opportunity to work with. And this is where we have to be bigger. We have to be bigger and understand that everybody has a right to contribute to the building of Guyana. There's no one political party that had the monopoly on the knowledge. Now, just look at those, as Doc said, the studies that are required to be able to get direct funding. Once it's been allocated, the feasibility studies must be done
Yeah.
for any institution to hand over that money. And to think, when we go back to the fact that Dr. Shamir, I don't know if you are aware, but recently we had a situation where more than 9 billion had not been audited, of revenues, of costs that Exxon was giving to the government of Guyana, more or less, to pay. And we have not even audited that. And the excuse was we couldn't find any auditors.
Not
Now,
true.
the fact that you have persons in the diaspora, experts in the US, in all parts of the world, surely you could have taken $1 million to make sure that you audit properly, the bill that we have been handed.
Yeah.
Surely, if you had a good relationship and were truly interested in Guyana, you wouldn't care what the politics of the expert was. You would just know that they are trained and qualified and can make a contribution.
Right.
And Dr. Ali, Dr. Shamir, I know that you have been based in the US for many years. And, in the US, it doesn't matter whether you're Republican or you're Democrat.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it doesn't matter. But you
Right.
go ahead and you still can make your contribution.
Yep. Yep.
I don't know, Doc, if you'd like to speak on that important point in that context.
Yes. 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 I also maintain my weekly contact with U.S. Department of State from since 2017, and that has not changed.
Yeah.
Even today, a group from New York, an accounting group, submitted a proposal. They were going to include all the accounting firms in Guyana with on site knowledge. The New York based firm was going to get oil gas expertise from Texas, from experts who were with Exxon, but certain things you can't put on paper. Their element of surprise, they didn't want to indicate they have all these connections, but the government didn't feel that they were qualified enough. But there was a application, there was a tender, but they didn't get the response. And with all due respect, from the little I know, I wouldn't call names, but there are over 20 top auditing firms: Raman McRae, Ali, Gangadin, To Trust. You have the companies in Guyana. All they have to do, come together, and they take a lead role in different sections of the audit. Simple. There's no rocket scientist. It's a massive exercise, never done, but a whole has many parts. And get the expert in each part and have a goal. That's how you do project management. So it could be done. 9.5 billion is a huge bill, can run us insolvent. And it's just pure laziness or
Yeah.
don't pay down. It's very sad. It's very sad. And
Yep.
a lot of people are not satisfied. A, B, C, and E are not satisfied from my intelligence, but they're watching it. They're watching it. They're watching it. And, we can overstep our boundary, but that's a very, very sad occurrence.
Yeah. Well, you're
Up to today,
absolutely.
I was asked about the 1% and 2%. And I said, the 1%, Janet Jackson was president. We got a border problem with Venezuela. Nobody knew about all, and she got 1%. Coalition government came. We didn't know much either, and we got 100% more than the 1% too. Looking back, a lot more could be done because there's a lot of evidence around the world. There are 10 sovereign wealth countries that can help us, including Kuwait, including Qatar, including Dubai, that we have
Mhm.
relationships with. They were not asked at all. They weren't asked, and their system is to help their people first. Infrastructure is good. I'm not going to argue with infrastructure, but you can't have poor people in your nation. It's their wealth, it's their oil and gas, not a politician. They have equal right. Not everybody want education to go to UG. Not everybody want. They're entitled and they should. And Kuwait and Qatar have the models that can be beneficial to Guyana, but for whatever reason, that's not the model that's being chosen.
Yeah. Very, very, very sad. Very sad. Dr. Shamir, can you share? Because I know, again, you spent a good 5 years in Kuwait,
Yeah.
and we know that these are oil producing countries. Tell us a bit about some of your comments on the national resource funds, the sovereign wealth funds, the mechanisms in other countries that they use to collect revenues from our oil sector and to be able to put it aside, some for the future, some for use currently, and of course for development. Are there some, is there some experience you'd like to share with us on that?
Yes. Well, the top 10 sovereign wealth fund countries are Norway, number one,
Mm-hmm.
with 1.4 trillion. China, number two, 1.2 trillion. Kuwait, 737 billion. Abu Dhabi, 697 billion. Hong Kong, 586 billion. Saudi Arabia, number six, 580 billion. Singapore, little Singapore, who in independence time was similarly like Guyana,
Mm-hmm.
with no resources, none, zero, just people. People, they have a culture and will of the leader, Lee Kuan Yew, that great
Yeah.
leader. Singapore has two, one with 578 billion and a second one with a 484 billion. Qatar is number nine, 450 billion, and China again, 447. Let me just tell you, even in the US, Alaska, each citizen receives between 330 and $2,000 from the oil revenues in the USA.
Wow.
So this is not something that is out of the bank, it's whatever you can afford. And let me tell you the Kuwait example. Well, Kuwait, with all their experiences, the great leaders have said Kuwait is for Kuwaitis, and they all were in the pearl diving business. And when this oil came out, they said half of the revenues at the beginning should go for the people, and the
Wow.
rest for the they didn't know anything else. Those times, they didn't have all this information, and the
Mhm.
students didn't travel, they didn't have all the experience. So they start very simple, very basic. And if you go in the desert, they still live that basic desert life today. It's imagine. So half went towards the people. As a result of that, every male citizen receives 1,000 Kuwaiti dinar. 1,000 Kuwaiti dinar is $3,270 wire transfer into the account monthly.
Did you say every
E-
month?
Every month.
Wow.
And
Wow.
Wow.
every woman,
Wow.
every woman, a lady, 500,
Yes.
$1,635, and every child, 250. In that world, there's still, the male is still the head of household. It's changing gradually, and that is it. And there are 1.45 million citizens.
Hmm.
Miss.
People have been complaining that it's too much and there's no taxes. You pay no
Yeah.
taxes, free light, free water, free transportation, free health, free. So IMF is after them to reduce some of those subsidies in view of the oil prices and no longer that $200 and $300 per
Hmm.
barrel. And so there's some talk to add taxes. Kuwait is
Mhm.
the last one, has not added any taxes yet.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, Dr. Shamir, you will know that we had a very challenging time in Guyana recently, especially in the parliament where both Devin and I sit. in that we had a structure for our National Resource Fund that ensured that you had a large group of people, representatives from civil society, the religious groups, the media, a range of different persons that would actually sit and decide how these funds would be used. And unfortunately, the current PPP government used their majority and have decided on what really is a Kazakhstan model, which brings the decision making on how our oil resources are going to be used into the hands of not more than 7 people. And 5 out of those 7 people are actually hand chosen, handpicked by the PPP. So you
Mhm.
can imagine the challenge and the dissatisfaction we have with that. It definitely suggests and creates an image that there's not going to be sufficient independence in the decision, and of course, transparency and accountability. And, one of the things we see in Guyana is that because we're coming from a very poor level of development, people have had it very hard, especially now with the increase in prices in oil, gas at the pump, a lot of commodity prices. So we have been pushing that we expected the government to certainly use. They took 607 million US dollars out of the fund and put it into the budget this year. And we've asked many, many questions over the 2 week budget hearings. Where is this 600 million US dollars going to go? What specific projects? And up to now, we have not had sufficient answers. And we certainly feel that at least a certain percentage of that could go to the people of Guyana, as you've so ably given us an example of what the people in Kuwait receive, because people have it very hard, extremely hard.
Agreed, agreed, agreed. It's the people's oil, it's the citizens' oil. With all
Yeah,
due respect, I haven't told you what the Qatar model is. The
yeah.
Qatar model, in addition to free health and electricity, every Qatari receives annually $137,000, 500,000 Qatari dinar. And there are
And
210,000 people. They're a small population. That's annually to his citizens. And
is
there's
that
no
a hundred
tax.
thousand US?
US dollars,
Oh my
136,
gosh.
750, plus no tax, free electricity, free water, free healthcare, free education, plus an elderly person gets an additional 3,000 on top. When you get married, a free land 0.25 acres plus 1,200,000 dinar equal $329,000 in a low interest loan. And half of it is a write off. That means you get 164,000 right
Yeah,
away for the house. And to build a house, there's $197,000. So Qatar, by virtue of the small population and the rich, not gas, the rich and rich technology and the thermal energy and the LNG gas, which is the hottie LNG, which is even better, cleaner than oil. They have even come out of OPEC because they're not pushing the oil. They are now using that, and it's a small population, 210. They're able to do all of that. But what is the lesson?
yeah.
They mobilize it for the people, and they're now the best airport in the world, the best airline in the world. And I'm reading what the ruling family sent me. This is
Wow.
the ruling family in. Oh, I'm in touch. I'm in touch. I didn't get accreditation to Qatar, but relationships. This is from the
Mhm.
ruling family. Don't, we have the. Don't forget to say we have the following infrastructure in Qatar: best airport in the world, best airline in the world, number three in healthcare, number five in education, state of the art metro, state of the art highway, big investment in human capital.
Yep, yep.
You
Yeah.
know,
Well, what we have here, there was a promise to make UG. the one university we have in Guyana free.
Free. Correct.
We've had increases in cost of living, and the students going to UG still have to pay. It
Yes.
used to be free. The PPP were the ones that instituted fees. And even with our oil resource, we can see that UG fees are not free still. And we're going, it's nearly 2 years later. We can look at their promise, and this is the next program we're going to do. The PPP promised to open the sugar estates. And the folks in Region 5 and 6 know that they too have a hard time, a very hard time. And no sugar estates have been reopened. And they've collected a good, I think it's something like 9 billion already for the sugar industry. And we have not seen that industry reopen up. So, Dr. Shamir Ali, the challenge we have in Guyana is that money is being used, but nobody's getting any of it. The sugar workers got a stipend, although they had received their severance under the APNU AFC, and we have to remember that. They were fully paid their severance, and they got a stipend of 250,000, which is like 1,000 US dollars, in addition to some of the other smaller gifts that have been given out, you know, a 9,000, a 10,000. But the public servants have had no real addition to their salaries. The nurses have not had a major adjustment. And as you know, they've dealt with COVID for the last 2 years. We give them thanks for their hard work. The police, and we feel strongly in the AFC that we are there to ensure, to speak out, to speak up, to ensure that the monies are well used. We have to guarantee transparency. But the attitude is that they feel they don't even need to say how the money is going to be spent. And that is not a position that is sustainable. The president's nonsensical position that he's not speaking with the opposition is going to lead him absolutely nowhere. As you would know, Doc, in the US, they go out of their way to make sure they speak with everybody.
Yes.
We remember previous US administrations where former presidents were included in discussions. Under our, and this is something I'd like the folks in Region 5 and 6 to know, when the APNU AFC were in government and we started the process of preparing and producing oil, our government actually said to Exxon, make sure you engage independently with the opposition. At that time, it was Mr. Barjaglio and the PPP. So Exxon, just as they would do a presentation to the government at the time, the APNU AFC, about what their plans were, what they were doing, we, the government, the former government said, go and speak with the opposition. Because the opposition, we felt, are players in Guyana's future, any opposition party. And therefore, they must be included. And it is sad because at this difficult time, if we work together, the APNU AFC and the PPP would be able to stand as one and make sure that when we're dealing with Exxon, we're getting the best for Guyana in all areas.
MP Cathy, I'm at a loss to understand. I served on Go Invest board for a number of years, and the opposition is always there. They do not like to come. They want the executive or now chairman of one of the corporations. He attended a few meetings, but there is a seat for the opposition. And I was led to believe that that's standard practice in all the commission and boards in Guyana and opposition members. So I do not understand how the NRF can have no opposition member and they're allowed to get away with that. It's not kosher, not matching.
On all the state boards, the custom that has been with us for decades, that whichever opposition is, whoever's in opposition would put representatives on the state board. under the PPP government, there is no opposition that has been invited. The opposition has not been invited to select their representative to sit on the state boards.
Well, in
So
go
we can call that the foundation of a dictatorship,
well in
because
go invest
everybody.
in go invest, there's a violation of the Constitution because I was told by the chairman, Minister Gaskin, that's the law. That is
Yep,
the law. So that's a violation of the Constitution and the law.
yep, yep. So
Right.
we have a lot of challenges. We have a lot of challenges. We're coming close to close off time. And I in the AFC, we have been very worried, just to take the conversation away from oil and some of those issues. We have been extremely concerned about the high loss of life on our roads. And I know that Devin had some special thoughts that he wanted to share on that. Devin, can we go to you to give us a brief comment on that, the scourge that we're dealing with in Guyana today?
Yeah, sure, Kathy. So, what we've observed over the last couple of months from the beginning of 2022 is that we've had an increase in road fatalities. A lot of accidents across the country, in Region 5 West, them, in fact, all over. And, even the media right now is peddling that so far as of March 26th, we have had 20 fatal accidents, of which 26 persons lost their lives.
Wow.
Um, and this is very sad and this is troubling to us. But the government is saying that they've had a 17% decrease in road fatalities or accidents for this period as compared to last year. The question which arises is that how safe is our roads? I live in Region 10 in Linden, and I can tell you that that Linden to Suzdijk highway is terrible, especially at night. You have those trucks that park anyhow, they don't put on the necessary indicators, and that is causing havoc on our roadways. And most recently, a lot of within our circle, within the social media space, they've been talking about how can we make our roadways more safe. Um, a lot of a lot of things stem out of bribes. A lot of the police officers, traffic cops are taking bribes, whether for speeding, they take up something under the table, and that's a known fact. But we see something coming up most recently whereby the basic examination, the theoretical examination, they're thinking about making it online. And I would like to have Dr. Shamir's thoughts on this part. Having such an exam online, that means possibly anybody can do the examination for you. All right, and this here it causes some problems, particularly when you're in a classroom. When I did my theoretical exam, I had to go attend the classes. The tutor there would tell you, all right, this is how you're gonna go about dealing with such a situation. You ask questions and all these things. So, but even if persons fail the examination, they will buy their license packages, or sometimes they don't even go to the theory class, but somehow they end up getting their license. I believe this is contributing towards the problem that we're having in Guyana here. But again, what are your thoughts on the theoretical examination being online?
Definitely, that's a no-no. That's a definitely a no-no. You're looking for trouble. It's a behavior and attitude, training and discipline, all the above. And the police have to be a lot firmer, and the government should not encourage it at all. You can have the exam in various regions, but that's looking for trouble. With all the
Mhm.
technology that's available, with the web and everything else, those exams will be 100%. Everybody will be passing 100%. We're not training drivers. All we're doing is selling a type license.
Stephen, I
Correct.
think what happens in some countries is that you will go into a center and you would sit at a computer and be monitored as you fill in your responses, so really what we are asking drivers, minibus drivers, young people that are driving fast in vehicles. any type of driver. We're asking you to be more patient, to be more considerate of the bicycles, considerate of the horse-drawn carts that are on our roads. Be considerate of the pedestrians walking on the road, because each of us has a mother, a daughter, a son, an uncle, a relative.
Mhm.
And every time somebody loses their life needlessly on our roads, just think of the pain and suffering that is brought to bear on an entire family. So,
Yes.
Devin, I'm glad that you raised that issue. We are appealing. We've had a lot of horrific accidents all over the country, and also Region 5 and Region 6 have gotten a lot of have had a lot of painful deaths and accidents.
Less
So,
speed, less
as
speed, less speed.
Let's
yes,
slow
Sheraton,
down.
less speed.
less speed
Sheraton,
and get there and get
get
there.
speed and get
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. So, with those warm words, of encouragement, I want to say that we've had an excellent show. Dr. Shamir Ali, thank you very much for joining us. Um, we were very appreciative of the examples you shared on how the sovereign wealth, the revenues from sovereign wealth funds are being used in other countries. And it's information like that that helps each and every one of us to be able to participate in a discussion
Yes.
as citizens, to demand that we all are able to benefit, that the benefits don't just go to the persons in the private sector that can get huge loans to expand their businesses, to do more services for the oil and gas industry, and for us not be able to encourage persons who need that helping hand to raise themselves up to be able to be part of this new industry in Guyana. I want to mention that COVID is still around, folks. In fact, Shanghai in China has been closed for a couple of days, I think 1 week, on a rotation basis, just because they've had a surge of the Omicron variant in Shanghai. So
That's right.
please wear your mask. I'm sitting in a room with no one else around me, as is Dr. Shamir. So that's why I don't have my mask on. But we ask you to wear your mask and to sanitize and to be safe. And most importantly, we know that this is a very special time of the year. The Ramadan has started. And I really would like to ask Dr. Shamir Ali to close us off with some words relating to Ramadan and the spirit of this season.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Malik Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'een. Ihdina siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim, ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. It simply means, in the name of Allah, the Lord of mercy, the Lord of mercy. Praise belongs to God, the Lord of the worlds, the Lord of mercy and the giver of mercy, master of the day of judgment. It is you who we worship, and it is you who we ask for help. Guide us on the straight path, the path of those you have blessed, and those incur no anger, and you have not gone astray. On this first day of Ramadan, we pray to you that you grant the leaders and all the political leaders and the opposition party, all the entire team in parliament and the nation, that they can think and reflect that we're all one under your name. So please bless us, guide all those who are in distress, all those who are sick, the disabled, the animals and pets. They are all your children. Let there be peace between Russia and Ukraine, and let there be greater peace. Grant this strength of Ramadan and fasting and tolerance, so the entire world will be a global community, better with our close to 7 billion citizens. Amen. Amen. Blessings to all.
Amen. Wonderful. Dr. Shamir Ali, thank you very much. What a pleasure it was to have you with us tonight. My colleague and friend in Parliament, Devin, thank you very much. To all our viewers, all our listeners in Region 5, Region 6, all across Guyana, stay safe and thank you for joining us on this edition. See you next week on Alliance on the Move. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye. Ta 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 ta.